Oi, check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. 2, 2, 2. Check 1, 2. Quanti. Check 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. Check 1, 2. Mic check 1, 2. 2, 2, 2. Mic check 1, 2.
someone else, and they'll do it as the day goes by. First, I must apologize that we're starting slightly late, but we're going to try and catch up with time. And in the spirit of starting us off, I want to invite Mr. Milton Wabiona and his team, who will take us through the anthems for the day. So please, if you'll give them a round of applause as we start.
Joy, all to remember the gates of Makerere, Makerere, Makerere.
We build for the future,
The great Makerere,
great, great and mighty, the walls around thee. Great, great and mighty, the gates beside thee. Great, great and mighty, the walls around thee. Great, great and mighty, the gates beside thee.
Oi! 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 Ra!
Thank you so much, Mr. Milton and your team. If we could have some silence. Thank you so much to Dr. Milton and his team. Those anthems were so well sung, I nearly asked for another anthem. Yes. And I am also happy to welcome our, I don't know if to call her the chief guest today, but I'm happy to welcome Winnie Byanyima, who's joined us now. So we're being hosted here by the Human Rights and Peace Center. And to start us off, I want to invite Dr. Businje Kabumba, who should be no stranger to all of you here. He's a lecturer in this institute and also from the HURIPEC.
Thank you very much, Raymond. Good afternoon, colleagues, friends, fellow Ugandans, and fellow human beings. I'm Businje Kabumba, as I've been introduced. I teach here at the School of Law. I also lead the team at the Human Rights and Peace Center. And coincidentally, this week, I'm also the acting Deputy Dean of the School of Law. It doesn't stop there. This week, I'm also the acting Dean of the School of Law. Both of those, unfortunately, end tomorrow, so let me enjoy it while it lasts. But in that triple capacity, I'd like to welcome you to the School of Law and the Human Rights and Peace Center, all of you. And that may also explain why there will really be no protocol. Each and every one of you here is extremely important to this conversation and is most welcome. There are several colleagues from the School of Law, from the central government, from the government of Uganda, from different faculty. There are some people who I've never seen here. Isaac, this is the first time you're coming, Inspire. You only come when Inspire is here. We are watching and recording. But friends, really, friends from the university, from Uganda, from outside Uganda, partners, colleagues, you're all most welcome. This is a very interesting day, and I think it really speaks to what HURIPEC has always stood for over 3 decades now. The celebration of ideas, the celebration of debate, teaching, research, and engagement with the community. And what a community that we have here. And perhaps no one in Uganda exemplifies this, the idea of the public intellectual, better than our author today, Jimmy Spire Sentongo. A gentleman of very many talents. And we are here today to launch his book, What Died When We Lived, Essays on Governance, Society, and Power in Uganda. I'd like, of course, to appreciate not just Spire, but aside from the inimitable Raymond, but also Bishop Zach Niringie, and of course, Engineer Honorable Winnie Byanyima. I see her refusing and rejecting the titles. None of our panelists needs any introduction. I just want to honor them and thank them very deeply for engaging, allowing us their time today. I'll just say one final thing before I sit. We sang an anthem, several anthems. One of those anthems, the Ugandan one, celebrates Uganda as a land of freedom. And some of the things Spire talks about is precisely this dilemma. The tension between what we aspire to be and what we are. Are we really a land of freedom? When just last evening, Sam Mugumya was abducted and remains, I don't know, are his whereabouts now known? And it's something that seems to be normalized. We hear, oh, a drone came. A non-Ugandan may not know what a drone is. They may think it's that area thing. But somehow we know them and we speak of them as if they're normal things. There are very many political prisoners in Uganda today, notwithstanding the celebrated decision of the Supreme Court, which itself came very late in the Kabaziguruka case. Notwithstanding that decision, the state continues to do what it will with utmost impunity. Increasingly, judges also seem to be either unwilling or unable to live up to the promise of that decision. We have seen very strange decisions where judges say, oh, you have complied with all the conditions as to bail, but, and after that but, so many things are found to justify the unjustifiable. And of course, even in this very room, we have people who have suffered unjust imprisonment, detention without trial. All the things the Constitution said should not happen: political persecution, detention without trial, and limitations beyond what's acceptable and demonstrably justifiable in a free, again that word, free and democratic society. So again, as we launch this book, I just nzenganze, me as me, I just like us to reflect on whether really the anthems that we sing really reflect what we still are as a country, whether indeed Uganda is still a land of freedom. And if it's not, what can be done to realize the aspirations reflected both in the Constitution and in our anthems. Thank you very much, colleagues, and you're most welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sinje Kabumba, Acting Deputy Dean, Acting Dean. I'm inclined to remind him who went to the Constitutional Court to demand the acting judges be thrown out. But we are also here today, of course, because of the book that was written. And the person that's going to come and speak to us next is the man whose hands that book was edited from. And it comes from the publishing house where this book was published from. So I want you to put your hands together to welcome Mr. Joseph Kasule from the Editor's House facility.
Thank you. It is befitting that there will be no protocol, as the convener has suggested. But there is an interesting page. I think it's page 3 of the book. And Roman numeral 3, the Romans have a legacy with us. To all that have allowed their conscience to die while they live. To all that have allowed their conscience to die while they live. It is not easy to put together a wonderful work as this. It's not easy. And Editor House Facility is a young but vibrant editing and publishing house that is working together with so many authors. And we are proud to have produced this book in collaboration with Dr. Spire Sentongo. And I think that your presence here is testament to that success. I want to reiterate one aspect of what the convener has mentioned, Dr. Kabumba, public intellectualism. Public intellectualism. And I think this goes to the core of your presence here. And I am happy that this event has been attended, by so many of you. But what is it about? Some of you are students, some of you are professors, some of you are in whichever walks of life you are in. You are an intellectual in yourself. And some of the aspect of being intellectual in the public realm is to have your ideas come out. Now, this might seem like a very simple book, but it has ideas about the cross-cutting issues that affect this country, that affect your communities. I wonder whether you have stories to share. If you have stories to share, we need to know about those stories. If you have stories to talk about that you think could improve society in one way or the other, you have to publish them. You have to publish them. And that will be the best way for driving intellectualism, and that's the best way that you can leave your mark onto society and beyond. I congratulate Dr. Spire Sentongo for publishing this work with us, and many other stories. We have a fully fledged editorial team that has renowned international and nationally capable hands who can put together wonderful content into something that is as satirical as Spire presents it, but also engaging intellectually. So thank you very much for your support towards this, and I am looking forward to receiving some manuscripts from you. Some of you are probably resident columnists in some of the national papers or whatever. Please bring your stories forward. I think we are ready to work with whatever we can work with. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Joseph Kasule. I'm not sure you want these people to bring you their essays. The publishing house itself might be locked up at some point. In case you're wondering why I'm rushing, I want us to catch up with time, but also I want us to have a longer discussion in which you take part in much later. So if you will put your hands together, and we welcome our author for the day, Professor Jimmy Spire Sentongo. And he will take us through the book and also take us through his thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, our keynote speaker, Engineer Honorable. Yes, I want to rub it in. Yes, Winnie Byanyima, you're really welcome, and I'm really honored to have you participate in this event actively. It's the second time I call upon your involvement. I don't know whether you remember the first, but you wrote the foreword to my other book, Quarantined. And if you don't remember, then I will know you didn't write it. Yes, you're welcome, much honored. My friend, Dr. Zach Nirinjie, thank you so much for accepting to be part of this conversation and for always be around me for guidance and whatever I ask for. Owekitiibwa Mulwanyamuli Semwogerere Katikkiro yawummula, tusanyuse nnyo kulaba. Ate weebale kubeerangawo buli mukolo bwe tukuyita. Owekitiibwa Mulwanyamuli Semwogerere was the boss to my father. Sometime, I will not mention the years, otherwise he will look much younger than he is. Is our principal, Professor Helen Nkavala. Yeah, the principal of the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. All deans, principals, heads of department present, our partners, those who have supported this event, CAS, the director of Huripeg. How many other titles? I don't want to leave out any. Yes, Dr. Kabumba, thanks for hosting us. Yeah, we are really privileged to be here this afternoon to launch this book. And also, much thanks to the publishers, Dr. Yusuf Serunkuma, Dr. Kasule, and your team. I really thank you for all the contribution to this book. Maybe I should first speak to that. If I was not really close to Yusuf, I think we would have lost our friendship in the process of publishing this book. And mainly for one reason, the cover. We had agreed on everything else, the entire process, but when it came to the cover, seeing that he had taken some time before designing it, I told him, Yusuf, you know, I'm also an artist of some sort. let me design the cover. Said, no, why don't you leave that to our team? Said, no, let me design something. So I took my time, designed the cover, sent it to him, and he replied with laughing emojis. And one statement, ebya cover mbadde nsaba obireke. I made another attempt to design the second one. And Yusuf replied in the same way, saying that, leave the cover to us. And that's when I thought that maybe this project is going to get to a standstill, because I was also not about to accept his ideas until he came up with this. Yeah, he showed me this photograph. Just by the look of the photograph and how it related to what I wanted the book to communicate, I felt I should leave the cover to him, so I left it to him at that point. So Yusuf, thanks so much, and sorry about all the trouble. I think I'm one of the difficult people to publish because I'm so picky. So I keep coming back with a missing full stop, with a missing comma somewhere, but Yusuf and team have been quite tolerant to that. Now, many people have asked me about the title of this book, What Died When We Lived? Why such a title? Because the one that came before it, no, there is another one in between. There is Living with Others, but before that, there was What I Saw When I Died. And some have been asking, what's your obsession with death? Why is it that all your titles have death somewhere? I will not talk about the reason directly, but the reason for this particular one, especially in terms of talking about what died when we lived, can be found on the pages. I will only give a snapshot of it. And I think everyone has a story to tell. So it's not really that I would want to give a pessimistic account, or I would want to give an impression that everything is wrong, everything is going bad. But I think all of us would acknowledge that in a number of areas, there is so much that we have to do. There is so much that we need to pay attention to that we have not really done. I will read just one of the essays in the book, perhaps to give an insight about why this book would be called that. And that is the first essay, The Complex Cost of Uganda's Breakdown in Honesty. I focus on honesty because I realize that many of the problems we are facing in Uganda today have a lot to do with honesty, have a lot to do with truth, have a lot to do with values, have a lot to do with principles. And perhaps before I read, one would wonder, why would I be interested in that as an academic? My area of specialization, academic specialization, is ethics within philosophy. And certainly ethics need no explanation of why an ethicist would be concerned about matters of governance, matters of social relations, and be concerned about issues such as corruption, such as malgovernance and all that. It is specifically within my area. But also I think that as an academic, I shouldn't limit myself to the walls of the university. I tend to incline more to writing what I think would speak to the wider audience, what I think would speak to anyone who can understand the language that I use, or where they cannot read. That's why I would draw. But I think that it wouldn't really make much sense for me as an academic situated in a context or a community where my relevance is not really felt, where you say you're a philosopher or you're a scholar of philosophy, but people do not see the philosophy in the interaction or in speaking to matters in your community. So I would be more comfortable if my philosophy is seen in how I engage with my community than how many journal articles that I write. So that's why I write a lot of stuff of this kind, and perhaps less of journal articles, not to say that they are not important. So the complex cost of Uganda's breakdown in honesty. I have noted on several occasions that Uganda seems to be at that point where everyone appears to be scheming to cheat or take advantage of the other. This has reached a level where it is agreeable as culture. It has eaten up families, religious institutions, government offices, and much else of social life. Recently, we were discussing this matter with family and friends after I had told them that a worker whom I trusted had disappeared with 2 bags of cement. Yes, 2. One wondered whether it was due to need or habit, or perhaps one leading to the other. But they all shared similar frustrations with workers who they must supervise so keenly to prevent being cheated or robbed. The ensuing discussion showed that, as a society, we have entangled ourselves into a web of dishonesty by which we are all suspicious of each other, never sure that someone will not cheat us. That is why most of us are often restless when we order for goods online. We find it hard to believe that a Japanese who knows nothing about us can receive our money and send us a car. This anxiety reveals what we are used to, that honesty is now strange to us, more of an exception. My brother, a medical doctor, shared an experience of a woman he attended to. Upon giving birth, the woman pleaded with him to bill her husband 1.5 million instead of the official 700,000. She said it was her opportunity to make money from the husband. The culture of what we call enjaulo is nothing but normalized theft. It appears now that everyone wants enjaulo from whatever they do. The child you send to buy groceries from the shop, the student on their school fees, the maid from money left at home, the foreman from building materials, the procurement officer, the mechanic, the lawyer, the head teacher, each waylaying their client as a target. It is not uncommon for one to buy goods and ask for a receipt, only to be asked by the attendant, "How much do you want me to receipt for you?" They sometimes ask whether you want the receipt blank or filled. It appears stupid not to work within the mischievous setup, and indeed so, because your life becomes hard. It is your construction plans that will take years to be approved as you stick onto the back of integrity. Formal processes seem to be deliberately complicated so that one will have to give up on them. They will ask for things after things in the name of requirement. They'll measure every quarter of a millimeter on the plan and fault you for this and that until frustration sends you into your pocket to speak properly. And we know what it means when one says speak properly. Or yogera ng'Omuganda, yogera ng'Omunayuganda. Unfortunately, that's what it has come to mean. You may want to buy land from someone, but a member of the selling family that is at the same time the broker wants you to factor their cut into the price. On payment, he tells you that you declare to the rest of the family members less by 4 million, or else he will interest another buyer, even if it means the family getting less than you offered. To win a contract, it is almost standard practice both in public and private domains that you have to throw back some of the money they give you to offer a service, even if it means compromising on quality. Kickbacks are asked for without blinking, just like one asks for an entitlement. They explain, We are many to eat on this. I also have to feed all my bosses on that little money in order to speed up things. Meanwhile, the boss also has to feed his boss so as to be kept on the job, which boss might also have a higher boss to facilitate. It is a thick ecosystem of feeding and eating, thick like a giant cobweb to a point of inescapability if one is to avoid running mad. We have constructed a society where honesty is punished with inconvenience, sabotage, frustration, and exclusion. And as I indicated earlier, in our society today, if you're honest, you suffer more than everyone else until you learn to be dishonest. The writing is huge on our wall. Be honest at your own risk. Trust at your own risk. But what is society without trust? What can be achieved without trust? What business can run under mutual suspicion? It is not only government that we do not trust. It is each other too. That is why you will lend what you can afford to lose, or else you keep demanding for it until the death of your friendship. It is the reason why you do not entrust your builders with cement and focus on your own business. Blink, and a couple of bags are gone. Many office workers spend their work time on phone, monitoring what's taking place at their homes, businesses, and building sites. One of the biggest risks to doing business in Uganda is dishonesty. You either start a business you will be able to tightly supervise, or one that does not require supervision. Even if it is coffee that someone will have to harvest for you in your absence, out of 10 bags you might be lucky to get 8. If it is a bar, they will replace the beer they have sold with new stock and announce that they have made no sales. At some washing bay in Wandegea, on return to pick my car, I found that all the fuel had been siphoned out. I would have thought that this was a random misfortune if I had not later watched an investigative feature on TV explaining how they do it. So, you might as well have to sit and observe until your car is cleaned. You need similar caution on a visit to a garage, perhaps having to ask someone to camp there until repairs are done. Otherwise, if they do not switch some of your car parts, they exaggerate what they will have fixed, confusing you with part names that you can hardly understand. It is theft, but they euphemistically call it okuyiya. I don't know whether there is anyone in the room who has not okuyiyad someone else. And those who do that are now called abagezi. Those who don't do it are called abasiru. Now, with that insight, I don't know whether anyone would ask why this book is called What Died When We Lived. The death of honesty in our society is something that should concern everyone. But it is not an entirely negative story. As I was talking about this to a friend, she suggested another book title, What Lived When We Died. Perhaps that's what I should think of next. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Spire. I wish for everyone to read this book. I had my share of laughing while I was reading it, but also my own share of inward looking. So I want to take the singular honor and privilege to invite our keynote speaker for today, who I will also continue the tradition of calling Engineer Honorable Winnie Byanyima, to give us our keynote address, and thereafter we'll have a discussion of the book. So a round of applause for Engineer Honorable Winnie Byanyima.
Thank you. Please drop the titles. I don't like them, neither the formal ones nor the traditional ones. Recently, I'm getting older. A little girl came up to me and called me Kakawini. Ama Munyankore, a grandma or grandpa is called Kaka, just like you say Jaja in Luganda. And I said, you little girl, I'm not your Kaka, I'm not anyone's Kaka, I'm just Winnie. Do you hear me? As I don't like titles, but we are obsessed with them. So anyway, distinguished guests here, professors, deans, students, all of you here, fellow citizens. I see many in this room whose faces I have seen before, your people I admire, your people who inspire me. It's really an honor to stand before you this evening, this afternoon, at the launch of a book that is as much a mirror as it is a manifesto. Jimmy Spire Sentongo's What Died When We Lived comes to us at a time when truth-telling has become both rare and dangerous. So Spire, thank you so much for honoring me and asking me to speak at the launch of this very important book. It's also an honor to be on the panel with Bishop Zach. Please allow me to use the title, Bishop. Okay, Zach. Uganda today is living under the weight of a dictatorship that has hardened over time. We see the concentration of power in one man's hands. It is a rule that is personal rather than institutional. We see dissenting voices silenced through intimidation, arrest, or exile. Just yesterday, a young man who spent 7 years in a prison in Congo, illegal detention, no case against him. 7 years in Congo, 4 years in exile, returns home, and within 2 weeks, he's been grabbed by the military and he's back in prison in Uganda. This is the country we are in. We see the judiciary bent under political pressure, its independence compromised. We see a parliament co-opted, reduced to a rubber stamp of the executive. They are a joke. They are not a parliament. We see the rule of law eroded, replaced with the rule of decree, presidential letters ordering people to do things against the law. And we see the media, which should speak truth to power, shackled and suppressed, self-censoring. Fear has become the currency of governance. Coercion has replaced consensus. And yet, even under such suffocation, there are voices of courage and they are continuing to rise. Among them, Spire. One of these voices is certainly Jimmy Spire Sentongo. He stands at the intersection of thought and action. As an academic, he sharpens the tools of critical thinking. As an activist, he refuses to leave those tools in the library. He shows us that scholarship is not only about theory, but it's about building civic courage. Together with a generation of friends, young friends, and I have met some of them and I so admire them, he has bridged reflection and resistance, turning analysis into action, and turning fear into laughter. How powerful. In a country where traditional political space has been sealed off, Spire has turned to technology as an instrument of democracy. I just love that. Through his citizen exhibitions, the Kampala Porthole exhibition, that killed me, the Uganda Health exhibition, the Parliament exhibition, I died. He has invited Ugandans to expose the dysfunction around them. Suddenly, potholes become headlines. Collapsing hospitals become evidence. Corruption in Parliament became undeniable. He demonstrated that with a phone and an internet connection, citizens can break through the walls of silence. He transformed despair into action, apathy into outrage, and fear into collective laughter. Didn't we laugh? This same spirit animates what died when we lived. I couldn't put it down. One night I was reading it up to morning. The book is not only critique, it is satire. And satire in the face of dictatorship is a powerful weapon. Because dictatorships thrive on fear, but satire punctures fear with laughter. And sometimes the sharpest truths come disguised in humor. There's one chapter I particularly loved, and allow me to read an extract from it. It's short. That is the chapter. When you said you're going to read a chapter, I hoped it wasn't the one I wanted to read. How to get away with corruption in Uganda. Here we go. Okay. Although corruption is normal in Uganda nowadays, this is him, I will pass my advice to those who might be unlucky to get caught or scolded. There will always be that unlucky person that will be beaten for what everyone else does with indifference. Sometimes, even the darlings, sons and daughters of the house, get shouted at by clueless dogs. Take my advice and thank me after a successful theft, says Sentongo. The first thing you should note is that you're not the only thief. Others have stolen sums almost half the national budget. What are 500 iron sheets? What are a few billions of a roads or health budget? So remember that the accuser is also as guilty as guilt. Deep inside, he's not convinced that what you have done is that wrong. Your main fault is to steal stupidly or to steal above your status ceiling. High-end theft has its owners. Only operate within the range of your political license. You may take a rabbit, but not a cow. It's good manners to know where you belong on the ladder of importance. You do not see children of the home jumping on the sofa and you also join in. While pigs and warthogs belong to the same family, they do not dine together. Only a stupid pig pushes its mouth onto a warthog's prey. At times, you're just unlucky to be caught at a politically wrong time. As they say, when bad luck chooses you as a companion, even a ripe banana can remove your teeth. While January to December is often the right time for theft of public funds in Uganda, listen to this, January to December, watch out for the times so that bad luck does not find you flat-footed. Sometimes the alpha may shout at a thief, but please calm down. It's only for public impressions, just as the anti-corruption walk some years ago, where the corrupt paraded themselves in a public workout of cutting on fat to create space for new guilt weight. Don't feel guilty for the theft. Bear the little pain and join the public performance in courts of law and short prison stunts. Soon you'll be out, jumping like a frog in moonlight with your loot. The nosy public will already have moved on to another scandal, and the supply is steady. Should you not be sure if the alpha still cares enough about you, or that you might be one of the family black sheep to be sacrificed on the altar of political impressions, do this. Show him that you have a huge block of voters behind you. Pull out the tribal or religious card, whatever would work best in the circumstances. Mobilize your tribe's mates and craft a dramatic public show of dissatisfaction. Let them show up at court, wailing and loudly demanding to know why, of all people, it is their son or daughter that is being witch hunted. It's not difficult to blackmail a grossly guilty club. Make it seem to be a case of government against the tribe. Ask them what your tribe did to be targeted. In Uganda's tribally charged society, you will always get tribesmates to buy into your blackmail. In any case, you can buy them, or they are also likely to be lower-level thieves of construction site cement. Spire loves this cement story. Kameza, Njaulo, Chai, all that. Let them scream in emotive frenzy, threatening that, should the persecution continue, they will stop voting for the alpha. Let them threaten to quit the party and join opposition. They will have touched the button that matters. You'll be good to go. You will have grown bigger than accountability. If you can't play the ethnic or religious card, I still have a strategy for you, says Spire. Should they make you a subject of corruption discussions, demanding accountability, cry political persecution. Don't respond to the accountability questions they raise. Instead, accuse them of getting personal. Accuse them of working for forces, using them to plot for your downfall. Play victim. After all, the real victims hardly have a voice to compete with yours that goes straight into the alpha's ears. You know who the alpha is. Carefully craft God into your narrative. God won't come down to protest or strike you for dressing up your thieving in his name. Remind those accusing you of corruption or oppression that the Lord is your strength. And therefore, no weapon fashioned against you will prosper. If they have forgotten the most important verse in the Bible, remind them that leaders come from God. By demanding accountability from you, they are questioning God's wisdom. Should all this fail, which is highly unlikely, stock your wardrobe with yellow clothes of all manners of design. Make sure you add the logo, which you can guess. Then wear these at every public event with preliminary praises for the Alpha at the opening of every speech. Thank him for having transformed the country from scratch to one that is worth speaking about internationally. Announce that you have already started mobilizing voters for the next elections. Dramatically kneel down and beg him to remain on the main. Then Spire concludes, says, if you follow my advice keenly, accountability will forget your name, no matter how much the public shouts. So, thank you. I really wanted to share that chapter with you. Let me say, what you've just heard is not simply comedy. It isn't. It is testimony. It is an anatomy of our political culture, laid bare with wit so sharp that it cuts deeper than any policy paper you may write or any report could ever do. I am reminded, Spire reminds me of great satirists who shaped our imagination. Did any of you read Molière, the Frenchman, the French playwright, whose comedies mocked hypocrisy and pretension? I remember very vividly in my 10th grade, S3 class, we staged a play by Molière, La Malade Imaginaire, translated in English as The Imaginary Invalid. On the surface, it was a comedy about a man who imagined himself always ill. But beneath the laughter, Molière, a French playwright, was exposing the greed of doctors, the arrogance of power, and the absurdity of self-deception. Even as teenagers, we felt the sting of that satire. We laughed and laughed as we put it on stage. I'm reminded of Oscar Wilde, that Irishman, with his wit and paradoxes in The Importance of Being Honest. Some of you may have read it in high school. Unmasking Victorian hypocrisy. I'm reminded of George Orwell, who in Animal Farm in 1984 revealed the inner workings of dictatorship and propaganda. I could share with you this because I was at Luzira visiting my husband, and I asked him to remind me. When he was in the bush, he got a copy of the Animal Farm, and he shared it and was reading it together with now the president of Rwanda, Paul Kagame. They were friends. They often used to share a tent whenever they camped in the bush. And they were sharing the Animal Farm and laughing at the pigs and sharing the story with other combatants. They were quickly told to put the book away. I am reminded, and by the way, with that same story, because they were poking fun at the contradictions of a revolution, but in a revolution where there were inequalities between officers and rank and file. There was a senior commander called Magara. He died. He was very senior. He was actually a deputy army commander at some point. Then there was another peasant young man who was just a combatant. He was also called Magara. So whenever they mentioned the name Magara, he decided that he needed to distinguish himself from the big Magara. And he called himself Magaratari Nkoko. Because you know who was eating Nkoko. So then there was, of course, our own Ngugi wa Thiong'o, the Kenyan writer, whose Devil on the Cross used biting humor to ridicule corruption and betrayal in Africa. I love that book. Jimmy Spire Sentongo stands in this great lineage. He does. He does. Where Moliere mocked doctors, Spire mocks ministries and bureaucrats. Where Oscar Wilde turned paradox into protest, Spire turns hashtags into resistance. Where Orwell's pigs became men, Spire shows us how corruption in Uganda has become almost normalized, even celebrated. This book, What Died When We Lived, is a gift to Uganda. I call it a gift. It is for the activist seeking courage, and I'm one of them. It is for the student learning to question. I hope many of you are here and are going to read it. It's for the journalist who is trying to hold the line under pressure. It is for the lawyer who is still committed to justice and is facing judges who've been compromised. It is even to the member of parliament who may have forgotten their conscience but wishes to recover it. Yes, if you've been a Mabati thief, there is redemption. This book could be your road to Emmaus. It is a mirror that shows us what we have lost. But it's also a lamp that lights the path forward. Let's not forget that. Friends, satire is never just about laughter. It's about awakening to laugh at the absurdity of oppression is to refuse its authority. I'm very proud to stand here and tell you that my partner, Dr. Kizza Besigye, is defying Judge Baguma and refusing his authority. He has the courage to refuse his authority because he has abused the law. He has misused his power. So to see the humor in corruption is to recognize its shame. So let us not just read this book. Let us be provoked by it. Let us allow it to unsettle us. It unsettled me. Let us laugh, but let our laughter be the beginning of action. It has empowered me. For in the end, what dies when we live in silence is our dignity, our courage, and, as Yusuf said, our freedom. What survives when we live in truth, however, is hope and is change. I thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Winnie, for those amazing remarks. It might be the only time I call you Winnie, so I'll use it. When you were reading that essay, I had actually texted Yusuf about it, and I said Spire left out one that has since been added now, which is call them imperialists. that one has been left out, but I'm sure in the revised edition it will be added. So now I have the distinct honor to invite Bishop Zach Nirinjie. He wears many hats in my personal life, but this is a public life, so I'll only invite him as Bishop Zach Nirinjie. Please put a round of applause for him.
Thank you very much. I honestly don't know why you, Raymond, and Winnie, my sister, are setting me up for protest. Because when you insist on calling me a bishop, what am I supposed to do? When it's very clear from Spire's book that bishops, apostles, prophets, priests, and pastors are part of our problem. This is very unkind. Please don't do this to me. And I agree. Bishops, apostles, pastors, and if you have one, next time you go to church, to the mosque, to whatever it is, just think for once, this guy, this lady is part of our problem. So I stand before you as part of your problem. Because certainly, I have subscribed for the length of my life to a way of thinking and living, a way of seeing the world from the lens. For the longest of time, I thought it was the lens of religion. But I have actually since, and let me make the confession, set myself on a path over the last 2.5 decades, on a path of renouncing religion in order for me to find faith in the person of Jesus. So I totally agree with Karl Marx. Totally agree with Karl Marx. Like totally. I have considered writing an essay in defense of atheism. This is a quote on page 55. I mean, you can imagine one of those chapters I had to read over and over again is sedating Uganda with religion and waragi. You know, you kind of juxtapose waragi and religion. I wish I could say they are different. And I have tested both. And I know how both work. He quotes Karl Marx. Religion is the sigh of the oppressed creature, the heart of a heartless world, and the soul of soulless conditions. It is the opium of the people. The abolition of religion as the illusory happiness of the people is the demand for their real happiness. So beware of prayer conferences, beware of prayer assemblies, beware of all nights of prayers, beware of cathedrals, of chapels, of tents, beware. I actually want to have a conversation with you, Winnie, how you've stayed faithful as a Catholic for another time. And what does that mean to be faithful? For me, as a one within the tradition of Anglicanism, it's become very clear to me that part of the path of faith is to seek to renounce those aspects that I have inherited that were disguised disguised methods of control and subversion of the human dignity that is ours. That was really a footnote to what I'm going to say. Because it's truly a privilege and a joy to be part of this event, and at this particular time. So thank you, my dear brother and friend, Spire. Thank you very, very much, Dr. Serunkuma. Thank you very much, BK. Thank you very much, friends with whom we have shared various aspects of this journey. This particular moment in the School of Law, I had a stint here, by the way, from 2012 to 2014-15 as a senior fellow in this very school, in this very center, the Human Rights and Peace Center. And I am now fairly clear that this moment is extremely significant. And you who pride yourselves as the learned profession, it is time to live up to who you say you are. A landmark decision, which Winnie has referenced, the Supreme Court decision and others before her, I think it's going to be in the law schools, I suggest, there is going to be in the history of law in this country a before and after. Before the Supreme Court decision and after. I have actually contemplated what the after should look like. I have sought to engage with BK as to whether this isn't the moment to close law schools in Uganda. For to what effect? Because even a land transaction, should it reach the Supreme Court, it could actually be referred to the court martial. A moment in which we question rituals that we have lived with and embraced for the longest of time. BK, you've done us good to question the ritual of singing anthems. But maybe in the singing of an anthem, it beckons us to try and reflect on the power of ritual, where in the moment of ritual, in reenacting ritual, it's a moment of protest. So singing these ritualistic anthems now could actually be an act of resistance. I have been very curious as I was thinking about this moment and absolutely eagerly looking forward to listening to you, Winnie. So I didn't have to prepare much because I knew I would have to have a conversation with you. But as I lay down in my bed this morning, reflecting on this event, I actually became curious. I didn't have the moment to ask you, Spire, why you chose the two of us to be conversational partners on this day. But maybe there is some significance in the bodies that we inhabit, Winnie and I. Possibly, and only possibly, I don't know. It's because we have the greatest benefit of hindsight. So we can be able to articulate better, hopefully, what died when we lived. For evidently, we are among the longest living Ugandans in this country. It is possible the only other two people who have lived longer than Winnie and I in this place are the two gentlemen I see in front of me. Confession be made. I think that that is true. I thought about Winnie. 1980s, when the quote-unquote revolution was launched. Winnie, is it true that you were also in Luwero? It is true. So evidently, Winnie is part of our problem, okay? So I am not the only problem. I am not the only problem, All right? Winnie is also part of the problem. In the 1980s, as Winnie was in Luero fighting for the freedom that she imagined with her colleagues, actually, I was in Kampala. I was an adult. I was in Kampala mobilizing relief to address the humanitarian crisis that Winnie and her colleagues were creating. We were the first national indigenous organization, the Fellowship of Christian Unions, to mobilize food and relief to feed the people in the camps in Luero. I was the team leader of that process. Can somebody who is presidential assistant please go and tell President Museveni? Because once in a public address, he asked, this Niringie must have been an adult. Where was he when we were in the bush? Mr. President, I was organizing to feed the people who were being displaced because of the work you were doing. Then I thought, where was Spire in the 1980s? I asked Google, and Google told me that Spire was born in 1979. True, sir? When were you born? Please, let's break these secrets. I am right. So Spire, I think, was trying to scamper for milk that didn't exist at that time. You know, those days, in a family, a typical home, milk was for children. Can I tell you what else we would do? So one day, I came out of my house, 1980-81, the days of, those of us who are older, remember Pandagari, the days when they abducted at will. This thing is not new, by the way. The idea that you wake up and there's mass abductions is not new. This thing has happened. So Pandagari. So I went to work. You remember these things, Owichibwa. So I went to work. And on the way, I lived in Bwaise at the time. And on the way, clearly Pandagari operation was in operation in that area. And roads were closed off. Talk about military presence. So I dashed back home after escaping through various routes. In getting home, I found the domestic assistant. Of my neighbor. I wasn't married yet, 1980, but I had a neighbor who had a little child and a domestic assistant. And I found her drinking a pot of good milk tea. Meanwhile, the baby was crying. Those days. I'll make reference to the critical nature of generational considerations, generational conversations, generational agendas. And so, as I reflect on this, I want to say that this is especially a significant moment for us, Winnie and I, and our generation, those of us who are 65 years plus. And I'm very intentional about this. 65 years plus. And there are only very few of us. Anybody else other than the professor, Owichibwa, my sister and I, who is 65 years and over, anybody else? I plead with you, stand to be counted in this moment. Maybe, in inviting Winnie and I, a statement is being made. What elders in our society must be doing. Reflecting on the past so that you who have a future may not repeat the mistakes that we made. Instead of jostling, haggling for political positions in this stealing empire as described by Spire. So I'd like to organize my reflections now and input in this conversation around the theme of work. the theme of work. I actually debated as I lay down, and even as I was listening to Winnie, whether I shouldn't shift. But I stuck to the idea of work. I could have actually focused on the theme of death and dying, but I chose to do this, reflecting it within the framework, the lens of work. By the way, another footnote. There was a person referenced by Winnie and the good professor, Spire, who once said, this is 2008, this theme of dying and killing has been, it's a consistent theme in this country. Let me just check if you remember who said this. It is me who hunted, it is me who hunted, and after killing the animal, they want me to go. Where should I go? Of course, he's still around. Very clear. So, the theme of death, killing, and dying is actually apt. Let's not be afraid of conversing around death and dying. But I want to focus on work. Why? Because I think one of the themes that emerge in this book is how work died, the ethic of work, the nature of work, and with work, the death of human dignity. So I'll speak briefly on this work, this book, and very briefly on the workman, Jimmy Spire Sentongo, and then lastly on the nature of our work as shared, presented in this remarkable work. What this moment demands of us. How then should we engage with the whole question of death? I don't need to say any more about the power of this work. It is bold, it is compelling, it is revealing. You must read it. I plead with media houses to find ways in which this work is available to the ordinary public. I plead with artists to dramatize the things that Spire writes in here. It is powerful. I plead with professors of social science to make this a required textbook in your readings. This is key work. It is philosophical, as it is satirical, as it is belongs to the whole group of creative writing. It is amazing. It is truly a masterpiece exposing the nature and character of the predicament of Uganda today, the country, the state, its leadership, and its citizens. I highly commend it to you. You can't read it and stay the same. If you do, then you have made a commitment to continue to be the problem that Spire has highlighted we all are. So now to the workman. Again, I don't need to say more. I totally resonate with everything you have said. And Spire, as you and I have engaged in one-on-one conversations, as we have mused, grieved, and bear with me to take this moment to grieve with you on the passing of your dear brother. A tragic incident in your own very life. But in many ways, a very difficult gift into your bosom. For you have been given this to experience what countless Ugandans continue to go through, have gone through, deaths that are inexplicable, deaths that leave us wondering. This man is a man worth our attention. Not because he has no weaknesses, not because he has no faults and failures, he is simply an ordinary man. We've eaten popcorn together. He eats popcorn. And when we were together, I was surprised. I thought in writing a book like this, you become superhuman. But he actually requested for a comfort break. So he went to the washroom. I didn't tease you, but I wished I had. I would have asked you, Spire, you're so amazing, so powerful. How do you do it? Do you do it differently from the rest of us? But he's a very ordinary man. He's a man like us. He is truly, and I'm happy to say this, he is truly a human being. Spire models for us what it really means to be truly human. To be characterized by that quality called Ubuntu. Thank you. I count it a joy and a privilege that in my older age, I have friends like you to keep me awake to the possibility that Ubuntu is not completely lost in this country. But Spire is truly a public intellectual, but I rather describe him as a scholar activist. While as a visiting fellow in this center, I thought I could embody scholar activism as I delivered public lectures in this institution and delivered public lectures across the rest of the country in different universities, both public and private. I was astounded at how the university is part of our problem. How the university is captivated, is captured by empire. In fact, how the university is an instrument of empire. I was amazed. I thought the university should be a place of engagement with ideas, wherever they come from, whoever they come from, for that is why it's called a university. But sadly, so I like us to suggest that rather than buy into the notion public intellectual, I propose a more real title for Spire is a scholar activist. For what is intellectual work if you can't take it on the street? For you see, in lecture halls, you embody the mind. But on the streets of Kampala, you bring your heart and your body. We are sick and tired of disembodied minds. We want to see you. Professors, lecturers, Spire teachers, us, we want to see you. We want to see you. We want to feel you. Professor Spire gives me hope that the university could be liberated from its colonial vestiges. I spent the whole of last year at Oxford University as a visiting fellow. And people wrote about my experience there. And people were like, Bishop Zach is at Oxford University. And I wish I could tell the public what a torturous experience being at Oxford University was. It's torture. Because, you know, as I entered those thick walls, my goodness, I was challenged to study. Where did the university idea come from? How was it promoted? And you go to Oxford University, that's it. Guys, I went to the dining hall in one of the colleges of Oxford University. I was shocked. I thought I was back in Northcote. Okay, sorry, this is testament of age, right? What is Northcote called these days? Maybe I've forgotten. And let me be serious. Actually, I was amazed that the dining tables, the forms, you could think the carpenter who did the dining hall in Wycliffe Hall is the same carpenter in Northcote. I was amazed. It's the same idea. These colonialists, these conquerors, These empires, they know how to do things. They can multiply them. Now, here is the tragedy, is people think the university is the center of excellence. No, until it is transformed, the university is the continuing center of our repression and oppression. And we must, as activist intellectuals, scholar activists, work for the liberation of the university. We cry out there, where is the political science department? Does it still exist here? Is there, school of law, constitutional law? What are you doing now that the constitution was overturned? Please show us. Show us why we must still study constitutional law. And I'm suggesting that what Spire has done for us, possibly models for us what a scholar activist par excellence looks like. And now I must conclude with my last remark. It's about our work. Winnie has said it very well, and I do in the introduction. It's amazing how agreed we are that this work commends to us. I use the metaphor of a torch. I use the metaphor of a mirror. And thank you very much for adding a manifesto. This torch says much about us. Spire, in his opening remarks, indicated that maybe the future of his own work is going to be what lived when we died. I proposed in the introduction that Spire's next work should be when we died and rose to a new Uganda. When we died and rose to a new Uganda. And that's where I want to stay. Because I think that the first thing we need to agree and to acknowledge that all of us are part of the problem. And it's precisely because all of us are part of the problem that we are all going to be part of the solution. My father, a philosopher, one who did not go to the lecture halls of any university, I commend you to the University of Life, guys. And serious universities, by the way, take seriously the University of Life. So my father, often a troubled man by the circumstances of the 1960s, the 1970s, and the 1980s, he would say to me that the tragedy of the times then, that people were to be characterized as, and I use it in my own mother tongue, Rufumbira, which is very much similar to Kinyarwanda, similar to Kirundi, and other variances within that region. I come from Kisoro. Abantu bapfuye bahagaze. Abantu bapfuye bahagaze. Umuntu upfuye ahagaze. That is, I wish I could have my newfound relatives from Arua to tell me what this would be in Rugbara. The point is this, it's that it's a being who is dead in real terms, although looking alive. How would we say this in Luganda? Omuntu upfuye uhagaze. Afude naye ngagize eki ayimiride. And the ones who want to teach us Runyankore, please help us. Teach us Runyankore in this safe space. What is umuntu upfuye uhagaze? Afire ayemerire. Afire ayemerire. I think that's what he has. I actually think that what Spire describes is dupfuye duhagaze. We are dead. I mean, you see it on our roads. It's evident. You see it everywhere. Here is what I'm suggesting, that this work calls us to a particular way of work moving forward. It is a call to kill what must die in order for a resurrection of that which is life and brings life and hope. That is the task I suggest this book calls us to. I attempted to reflect on this in an earlier work that I did, and you will understand the interesting ways in which publishing in this country is. Uganda Today, Crisis and Hope for the Future. This little book I published in 2015, and the publisher is Niringiye Publications. You understand why? I went to publisher after publisher, and no one would touch it. I'm hoping to republish it. But here is an agenda that I propose that this book calls us to. First, it's honest and candid conversations. Honest and candid. Generational, intergenerational, and transgenerational. This book reflects briefly in a section on what that future would look like. And in the agenda cast in this book, it speaks about the need for the youth to stand up, how the future depends on you. Generational. I want to add that those who are older, as I've already indicated, you have a role to play. You must be intentional. Since you already have houses, you already have land, you have positions, for goodness sake, how much more can we feed you with? Sit, let's talk together. I wish I could speak to Right Honorable Kadaga and say to her, Mama, let's just admit we are older. I wish I could speak, and I actually do, openly. I have suggested that anybody who is 65 and older should really not be in any of the campaigns in this country. Guys, this is a completely new day. It's not business as usual. People say, but Trump is 80. But that is America. This is Uganda. Only 2% of the population of this country are 65 years and over. I call, therefore, upon a generational, intergenerational, and transgenerational conversation. This will demand, secondly, organizing. It's time we stop agonizing and be intentional on organizing in killing that which must die. And then lastly, hopefully, in the process of organization, we'll be able to chart an agenda. And Spire's book helps us create an imagination of what a resurrected Uganda, a resurrected people look like. A new way of being Abantu, citizens of this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I can't say Bishop Zach now, I have to say Zach. And it also might be the only time I get to say Zach in real time. I now have a very enviable task, which is to get these people to talk and then to also get you to talk about this book. And I guess that I'd like to start with when I was coming here this morning, as I was getting out of the house. My wife is the more organized person in the household. So she asked me, who do I call when they take you? And that's the nature of what has died. When people say what has died, it's that every time you step out to come to conversations like this, there is a tacit preparation on the part of everyone that there must be sureties, we must prepare a bail application, have it in draft. These days I even hear the sureties must be spread across courts, Makindye, Buganda Road, and in case you're taken. But also someone must be ready to go to Luzira and give you slippers and something like that. So I hope that we all, after this conversation, go back to our homes peacefully. And I hope that we can be able to have some conversations with our loved ones. But I'd like to start with you, Winnie. And of course, you allowed me to call you Winnie, so I'll do that. Bishop Zach speaks about intergenerational conversations. Unfortunately, on this panel, I am the youngest. And one of the things that I kept asking myself as I read this book was, maybe we should let the thing that has died die. And we show up for its funeral, we bury it properly, put a grave, put up a stone, and then we start to construct something new. And for me, the question is there any hope in trying to resurrect the kind of Uganda that you fought for, or the kind of Uganda that existed in the 1990s? Should we reconstruct that Uganda, or should we, as young people, organize and construct a whole new Uganda?
Thank you. I don't believe that there is a utopia that we once were, that we want to return to. I think we are in a struggle. We are in a long, long struggle. This continent, we were first invaded by the Arabs in the 15th, 16th century. 16th century. They came up to Uganda here through the coast of the Indian Ocean. We survived that. It was centuries of slavery. Then we survived 400 years of slavery by the Europeans, taking our most able-bodied people, men and women, 400 years. Then we survived 100 years of colonialism after slavery. So centuries, 6 centuries of domination. We are now talking about, we have been independent 60 so many years. We are in a long struggle. And I think we need to keep looking. We can look at the past and see what we can learn from our efforts to be, but we are survivors. All these 700 years of domination, we're still here on our continent with countries which we rule ourselves. Don't forget that there is Australia there. When I was last there, I asked, how many of the indigenous people are in the parliament? There was less than 1% of the real owners of that land in their parliament. The indigenous people in America are in camps. They are not anywhere. But we are here running our own countries very badly. You could say we are also survivors of the inheritors of colonialism. People like Museveni and others, they are inheritors of colonialism. And we're also suffering under them. But it's a long, long struggle, and we must keep focused on what we want to achieve for ourselves, but not to look back at when we were better. I don't think so. We want to look forward at what do we want for our people today, for our young generation today. So for me, this book is so important because it is a mirror, looking at ourselves, our society and what it has become, our governance and how our leaders rule over us. And with that, it inspires us to act, to keep fighting in this long struggle for our true liberation. So I am not very interested in looking at a glorious past. It isn't there. We've been struggling, fighting to stay alive. The only thing I'm proud of as an African is we've survived. We are here. In many ways, we control our countries. There's much out there that we don't control in the global system that needs to change to give us a chance to grow our economies and give you young people jobs. But that's our struggle. We stay focused there. So I'm not looking at a glorious past. I'm looking at a life of struggle, survival, and continuing to fight.
All right, thank you. And when you mention a life of struggle, I keep wondering, like, at what point you stop struggling? Because my great-grandfather, this is a true life story, my great-grandfather fought in Burma against the colonial government. My grandfather was involved in the struggle for independence, negotiations in Lancaster. My father fought for this thing they call liberation. I am now fighting. I have 2 children. So at what point do we resign the struggle and start to actually live? Because we've got to also live. Or do we struggle and live together with the struggle? Are we destined to be strugglers forever?
Yes. If you stop to struggle, you stop to exist. Yes, I believe that the struggle is life. You must always be looking at making life better for yourself and your generation. So, if you are an African, you have so much to be proud of, as I said, having survived this domination. But you also have a lot of grievance. We have a lot of grievance with where we are today. So struggle for me is beautiful. Struggle is defining. It gives me purpose. It makes me happy to exist today, to contribute for a better tomorrow. So without struggle, for me, life is a bit meaningless. Not a bit, very meaningless. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Zach, if I could come to you now. When we're looking for sources of moral courage, Dr. Spire's entire first chapter is dedicated to a moral crisis. When we're looking for sources of moral courage, we turn to the law, for example, we turn to the church, we turn to the communities we come from. But there's an essay in here of how African societies are bound to produce dictators, because all those forms produce some form of hegemony that we must obey the people above us. And that has often factored into how we fight for liberation. If we go to the street, for example, and Bishop Zach calls me and says, "My son, please think about our grandchildren," I'm inclined to take that call. I'm inclined to listen to it. So how do you encourage young people here to fight for liberation in a very complex society that demands of them to be obedient to some form of hegemony that's been handed to them?
I think we should be intentional on defying structures, hegemonic structures. And absolutely, religion is one of those anchors of hegemony. I have invested the last at least 25 years, even as a bishop in the city of Kampala, on the problem of religion. And you've articulated it well. The book does, religion as part of these hegemonic narratives that control. So we must be questioning. Younger people ask deep questions. Ask questions of a world that was passed on to you and the world ahead of you. I have good news for you, Raymond. I would never call you to ask you to think about my grandchildren. I actually won't. Because you are a gift, your grandchildren are gifts. They will make it. In fact, I would say, do what you must for the sake of your grandchildren. So I think we need to get away from this concept of safety. You know, you are articulating happiness without struggle. It's not there. It's a lie. It doesn't exist. We must work hard. We must work hard. So the challenge, I think, with my generation is a lie we bought into. We bought into a lie. You get to university, you have good land, you have, the hereafter, and it's all bliss. No, that's a lie. So take your responsibility now for the future you're going to embrace. Yes. So I repeat, organize. Organize think tanks. When we were here at Makerere in the 1970s, we gathered for just to reflect on people who were disruptive, professors who were disruptive. Guys, organize with professors who are disruptive. Those who are just doing lectures or seminars, consultancies for more money, do their thing. time, pass their exams, but spend your extra time, not in one day in a kafunda. No, spend your extra time thinking, organizing, asking yourselves, what does the future look for you? The collective is critical. We must also completely refuse this notion of individualism. My life is my own. No, we are in this together and we perish together. So, in addition to what my sister says, I believe that part of this future that the young people must determine to do through this analysis is to determine to kill those things that must die. Let me tell you, to let things die is too costly. When a building is lost its value, it takes courage to just bring it down. That's what must be done. Let me tell you, life under a dilapidated, wrecked building is horrible. You will pay heavier. So, organize to bring destruction to things that must be destroyed. The things that have led us into a dishonest way of living. There are systemic and structural things that must be dealt with. But this is going to only happen when we are engaged in critical reflection. Collective. Thank you.
All right. Dr. Spire, I'm inclined to ask you one question on an essay that really spoke to me, anger and tolerance in society. The more angry people become, it's been weaponized, at least in language, that those angry people are, they have a mental problem, number one. They are imperialists, number two. They are members of the opposition. So anger is weaponized to stop people from speaking. But also, the more tolerant people become, is the more docile, and society continues to slip away. So when you're trying to strike a balance between anger and tolerance in what Zach tells us, in trying to destroy this building, how do you strike that balance? How do you be disagreeable, for example? Must we follow some culture around being disagreeable? If I want to stop attending constitutional law lectures of Businje Kabumba, do I just go and tell the man, look here, your course is useless? Can I just scrap it off the units I have to do and continue to do my work? So how do we manage the gap between anger and tolerance in our society?
Yeah, I think first of all, the language of striking a balance to me is a bit problematic. We don't always have to strike a balance. Often that is a language that is used to avoid certain necessary extremes. One will tell you now, I think that is overboard. Could you try to strike a balance? You're too critical of the NRM. Could you also say some good about the NRM? You're too opposition leaning. And I tell them I'm not here as a neutral player. I'm not here to strike any balance, but if I see that more of the wrong is the other side, I'll speak about it the way it is. So I would respond to it without emphasizing any need to strike a balance. But to your first point of anger and tolerance, again, we shouldn't look at this as a binary and as something that we have to look at asking where we strike a balance between being too angry and being too tolerant. Yeah, I believe in tolerance, but not in absolute tolerance. Absolute tolerance is problematic. Being tolerant does not mean that I accept everything. Being tolerant doesn't mean that even when you're clearly the problem, I have to come to you and say, okay, I acknowledge you as well as, of course, this is a democratic society, even what you're doing is acceptable. Tolerance would mean accepting those things that would take us forward. It means tolerating the good, not tolerating everything. So I don't tolerate many things that in the face of injustice is siding with the oppressor. So if one asks me of being neutral in a circumstance where I have to take a position, to take a stand against what I clearly think is wrong, then I will not accept the invitation. So the anger that we see in the public, I think the most important question to ask is, where is it coming from? Clearly, people are very angry. When you check Ugandan social media, I think almost 80% of it is an expression of anger. It is a space for venting. So instead of asking where that anger is coming from, we try to moralize, to police how people express their dissatisfaction. For instance, to keep telling them, but you shouldn't insult, you should be decent. Ordinarily, we shouldn't accept insulting. But if the only weapon I'm left with is to insult the oppressor, I'll insult them. Because you do not block all the decent channels, block all the formal channels, and someone goes to another, resorts to another means out of desperation, and then you come to them telling them they are indecent. So the indecence we are talking about, which is otherwise unacceptable, at least culturally, and in many ways we could refer to religiously, it is born out of the extremes that people have been pushed to. The same with this recent phenomenon of celebrating deaths. Yes, ordinarily Ugandans would not celebrate anyone's death. We keep referring to our cultures, that our cultures do not allow that. But the question is, how did we come to a point when people start celebrating the death of others? If you're my oppressor, your death is part of my emancipation. So you don't expect me to mourn with you. You don't expect me to feel with you in your pain, yet you're a constant factor in my pain. So not until we understand that, not until we understand where the anger is coming from, where the intolerance, if you may call it that, where it's coming from, and be willing to listen and address that, I only think that the anger is going to get worse. In fact, we are going to see worse forms of dissent. We are going to see worse forms of resistance, because naturally human beings will always fight for survival. It is our instinctive element that you can't take away. Self-preservation is the first thing for every living thing. Even if it's a cat, you step on its tail, even if it's yours, you know what will happen. But it doesn't mean the cat is indecent. It's trying to survive. Thank you.
Yes, please.
I'd like to add to this question about anger and tolerance. And I want to address myself directly to students here at Makerere. I think it is important, very important, to be angry. I start by saying we as Africans have this strong sense of a collective destiny and our collective history. It's from our history. I work globally. I don't find this sense in Asia, in Europe, anywhere as strong, that we have a common heritage and we have a strong sense of a common destiny. And as such, I think it is important to be angry and impatient about what's not working for us. We're coming from a history, we want a better future. Being angry is, for me, important. Here in Uganda, it's important to be angry about the injustices here. It is. But it's important to be really analytical and grounded in evidence, knowing what it is you are angry against and how you can resist it. You can't resist unless you're angry. So, for me, young people here at the university, if all you are doing is read your books and get your scores and pass your exams, you're missing the opportunity at university. You're missing. You got to be angry about the collective. Is there a future for you? Is this country being managed in a way that will give you opportunity? And if not, what are you doing with others about it? I think that's what this book tells us. that we each have a responsibility to work collectively with others to correct the injustices, to make the future better. So I challenge you. I left this Makerere University after one wonderful year as a fresher. I was happy and excited, but things were wrong in the country that impacted me very deeply, and I fled. When I fled, I went as an angry girl, leaving my country, leaving campus, which I loved, and I put my anger, I channeled my anger into university activism at Manchester University, where I went. I am who I am today because of that. Because in the university, I read and passed highly aeronautical engineering, but I also immersed myself in activism, in the Pan-African liberation movements. All my anger I channeled into activism. And here I am, a global activist. So put your anger somewhere. Be angry, channel your anger into collective action. When I joined the Bush, Zach asked me if I was with the NRA. Yes, I was. I'm not ashamed, I'm not apologetic. It's a project we invested in. It's a project that was hijacked. Such are struggles, you continue. But when we were there, we had what we called siyasa, the political education. At that time, it was very sharp. When you joined, you didn't immediately become a combatant. No. You came and you were asked, why have you joined the struggle? And you expressed your anger. What is going wrong that makes you live wherever and come to be bitten by mosquitoes in the bush? Then you were called Mwananchi amekazirika, an angry civilian. We entered the bush as angry civilians. Later on, you learned to channel your anger into being a combatant. But angry civilian was the first thing. Be angry civilians. I remain an angry civilian. I remain who I was when I entered that bush. An angry civilian, angry at the injustices in Uganda. I continue to fight them. I continue to challenge President Museveni and his group because they've abandoned the struggle. So for you, shape the struggle. Fight the injustices of today, the nepotism, the corruption, the patronage system, the personal rule, the family rule, the militarization of our country and all the institutions. Be angry. I'm angry. So let's be angry and put our anger into collective action.
All right. Thank you so much, Winnie. While you were speaking, someone has supplied logistics and taken the struggle away from here. In Makerere, food and drinks are called logistics, so someone is trying to antagonize the struggle. But maybe I wanted to come to Spire for the final question before I allow the public in. I realized both the discussants didn't touch the final part of your book, which is the post-Museveni era. It takes a lot of courage to dream of a Uganda beyond Museveni, and I see that you've done a great deal of that. 5 essays of what can be done post-Museveni. But for me, the question to ask you is, how come other scholars like you do not have the courage to think of a Uganda beyond Museveni? What is it that you did to get that kind of courage that other scholars here should have to dream of a Uganda beyond Museveni?
Yeah, thank you. First, I've seen my friend in the audience, Samson Kashumba. Good. Yes. Samson blocked me. I'm here to urge him to unblock me. Yeah, that's just a joke. Yeah, I cannot I cannot speak for other scholars why they don't have the courage to talk about that, to reflect about the post-Museveni era. I don't know their reasons. Just as I may only speculate about the reasons what Bishop Zach talked about, why increasingly scholars are withdrawing from public engagement, especially political engagement, or where it's unsafe. I know some of the reasons, but why they don't have the courage to do that, why they don't get it, I can't speak about that. Maybe there will be a chance for them to do so. But certainly we cannot avoid thinking about a post-Museveni era. Because even if one loves Museveni so much, it is very clear that naturally he is going to end somewhere. And all the signs are evident that is soon. It could be sooner for some of us, but for him, I think naturally it's, you would expect that any people concerned about their future would plan. What is so unfortunate is that because of the problems that are being brought about by the Museveni era, our preoccupation has come to be about Museveni. Because now the primary problem is how to remove him. You cannot think about anything else when the problem that you're facing with is just this stumbling block. So that's why much of the conversation is now, how do we remove Museveni? Yes, as academics, we should go beyond that. But if you're to go out there to the public, even if you're a politician, and you start talking about policies or how we will change Uganda after Museveni, very few people will listen to you. They will ask you, how do we remove the dictator? That is why either the rhetoric or slogans of removing the dictator speak more meaningfully to people now. And that is what a prolonged rule does to the citizenry. But I agree with you that it is a question that we must reflect about. These essays, the 5 essays towards the end, what to do when Museveni leaves, I wrote them around 2018. At that time, reading the signs, I thought that he was actually at the tail end. So I was so encouraged to write these essays, to start planning. But after COVID, it seems he got a new life. Yeah, but it's a conversation we must have. And perhaps the audience can be invited to speak more about that. But it's very difficult for us to think about it in the circumstances. Thank you.
All right, Zach wants to make a point, then we get to the audience.
Just a quick one, actually. The 40 years of the NRM rule gives us an opportunity to imagine 40 years from now. So let's try and imagine 40 years from now. I will not be here. If I'm lucky, I have another 10, 15 years, if I'm lucky. But my OHT Bamulwanyamuli will not be here. If I give him another, I don't even want to give you 20 years. I really want you to live a good life, and so on. Winnie will not be here 40 years from now. Of course, President Museveni will not be here. His wife will not be here. His son, if he is lucky, he will be kind of also struggling with old people's diseases. The point I'm making, for those of you who are 20, 25, imagine 40 years from now. Please. That's what must happen. One of the things that dictatorships and authoritarian states kill is imagination. We must defy and imagine a future. And I think that the people who have the capacity to imagine that future is yourselves. And the second thing I really want to say is the anger is good, but the anger is useless if it is left to individuals. The anger must be collected. Let's be angry together. It will not be the bush that she went to, but we need new bushes of some kind. Do you get me? You must be sharp. If you go into a bush that is exposed, they will just snap you out and you're finished before you even start. So the concepts are good. So younger people, please organize yourself. That's why I emphasize post-Museveni imagination is thinking and imagining and therefore organizing. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Zach, for that. Of course, the climate change has dealt away the bushes, so we must deal with what we have. I'm going to open this to the audience, and you will allow me to be dictatorial. So there will be disproportionate representation. I think we'll have more students speaking than the scholars, but the floor is now open. Please, if you wish, introduce yourself and ask your question. But if you don't want to introduce yourself, we'll also understand the society we live in. So please, I'll start with the gentleman there. I need someone to help me move the microphone. Mr. Kasule has helped. So we'll start with the gentleman up there in a gray shirt. I'm sorry. In a gray shirt there. I need... Please tell us your question, who you're asking it to, and if it's a comment, keep it very brief. Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. My name is Kalatunga Guti, and I want to commend Dr. Spire for the book because it comes in a time when almost all institutions in the country we live in are dead. My question would be, how would we deal with the killer, and when did this death begin? Because there's an African proverb that says that if at all the drum beat at the palace changes, then the dance in the village will also change. So this seems to be more like a problem that is originating from upstream, the people that have been the genesis of this death, the Bishop Zacks and the likes of Dr. Winnie. But this is more like a cancer that is spreading from the upper generation to the lower generation. And we seem not to have solutions that are vivid on the way we're going to cure this cancer. So I would like to understand, how do we deal with this? What are the viable solutions to the death that we are currently facing today? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Just to be sure, your name is Putin?
Kalatunga Guti.
Okay, I just needed to be sure of that. I'll come to the gentleman to the front here, and then we'll go back up there.
Good afternoon. My name is Mwesigwa Jesse Lutu, and I have 3 questions.
Please ask one so that other people can ask.
They are too brief. They are too brief. One goes to Honorable Winnie. She said that dictatorships thrive on fear. So my question is, whose fear? Are the dictators in fear, or the people who are subject to the dictatorship? Then the other goes to Bishop Zack, who was imploring us to defy hegemonic structures. And my concern is that we are being groomed in these structures. So how can a structure groom you to overturn it? Or then how do we overturn them? So the other question maybe goes to either the author of the book or Dr. Yusuf, who designed the cover of the book, because it is eye-catching and I can see a gate but without a fence. A gate on a home, it seems to be a home but without a fence. So if we could be given a minute or two to throw more light on it. Yes.
All right, thank you, Jesse. I need some ladies now. Okay, at the back there. If you can move the microphone to the lady in...
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you to our speakers. I just want to say, I want to give a vote of thanks for starters to Dr. Spire. Thank you for dismantling what everyone is not capable of saying due to various reasons. Number 2, I just want to say that thank you for enlightening us and showing us that fear does nothing to us, but keep us redundant. And if you are never able to speak, you might never speak. So if we are constantly scared of expressing ourselves because, you know, you might be somewhere there in the compound and a smartly dressed gentleman, you know, just abducts you, then we might never get anywhere. And I also just want to tell people that Activism comes or presents itself in many forms. Do not think you must be on the streets. You can do your own activism through writing. You are learned people. You can write. You can come up with different ways of expressing your grievance. So nonetheless, we might be disabled, but even the disabled have a way of presenting their grievances. So I just want to tell people here that do not think that these struggles only apply to you or the people outside on the streets just because you are in the confines of Makerere University. They apply to you even in the comfort of your parents' home in Buziga. So you must find a way to express your grievance. Right. Thank you, Dr. Spire, once again. Thank you, Bishop.
Right.
And thank you, Winnie.
I want to get to the top of the room so that people say that I also went to the people that are powerful. There's a gentleman up there in our Westcourt, I think, or yes. The microphone is moving. It will find you. And after, you'll give it to the lady right behind you.
Thank you very much. My name is Everest Cubs. When you get time, follow me on Twitter. The war is gone, and the mustard seed was sown. But growing up, songs of liberation have been our lullabies. And retelling these stories have groomed a generation of fear, a generation full of fear. And that is not my question. When we go to social media seeking refuge, we come to learn that we are gagged by the freedom to speak anything we want, as long as it's not everything we want. So my question is, and it's brief, what should we do? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Abigail. And I have a comment and a question. I just have to say that I am inspired by the way you do cartoon drawing, yes, but you have found a way to make something as insignificant, if I should say. You have found a way to make it inspiring to people. And I have to ask, what made you, what pushed you, what fire was burning inside you that inspired you to inspire?
That's a double entendre. Please, the gentleman with ruffian hair at the back, then I'll come down. Yes.
Good afternoon. Colleagues. Good afternoon. I want to thank you all for showing up. I want to thank the Huripek Oye, Dr. Kabumba Oye, Aspire Oye, Winnie Byanyima Oye, everyone Oye. My question is, it's a simple one. Dr. Winnie Byanyima just mentioned that we need to channel our anger into activism. But the real problem is our lecturers, our professors, our vice chancellor, they are against us. They are fighting us. A case study is one of our students, our own student, was abducted from intern for descending voices on social media, arraigned before court in Entebbe, and is in prison right now. Our guild president is busy organizing matches between TikTokers and the guild league. Seriously, we really want to go into activism and support, but we don't see a way forward because our lecturers, our professors, our elders are fighting the young activists. So we are in a state of confusion. We don't know where to go. We don't know where to head. So we really want clarity on that. Thank you very much.
All right, I'll just have one more lady here and then we'll come down to the scholarly community. There's a lady with a laptop. Please pass the microphone first, and then we'll get back to our panel. Please pass the microphone to this lady
I have something
at the
to
front.
say. Excuse me, sir. A minute. Thank you very much, sir. As we were talking about issues to do with anger and defiance, I think I should be defiant with this mic and keep holding it. But I'm only restricted to a minute. I'm forced to remind all of us that however much Museveni and his regime today are the embodiment of oppression, as a people we have never tasted true freedom. From the time of our chiefs, the traditional chiefs, then to the colonizer, then to us today, we have never tasted freedom. And I believe it's time to aspire for it. But my main problem is, you see, Honorable Winnie was talking about how they went to the bush. And surely they fought. And it's quite heartbreaking that they haven't won. And the battle is now brought back to us. He brought us to the issue of climate change. The bushes are now cleared. You air out your views, you have been caught. So I'm simply asking, how can we fight? Because it seems there are no more methods we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please pass the microphone to the lady here. Now you've set a very dangerous precedent of defying my orders, but I'll be dictatorial. The lady with a laptop here. Please, I beg you. We are going to come to you. I promise we're going to come to you. Let's start there and then we'll come down. Yes.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Isabella Kankwata. My question goes to Mr. Spire. As the author of this book, as someone that is speaking to the realities of the country right now, to ask the readers and to the natives that might get information from your book and get an understanding of your thought patterns and look at ideally how you're looking at society as an academia, as an activist, what change do you want to be embodied in the reader? What do you want to communicate to us that are at the other end of your knowledge? This is your child, so ideally, as someone that is giving to the society, what ideally do you want us to get from it? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Then the lady here at the front, and then we'll get back to the panel.
Good afternoon. Yes. My name is Viola Boneko Rusoke. I have a question for each of the, whoever I'll choose, but particularly for Winnie and Doctor. I like the fact that Dr. Zach, you mentioned 40 years from now. I'm a marketer. Before I'm a lawyer, I'm a marketer. The demography is going to change. 40 years from now, we may not even have politicians. Yes, we won't have politicians. There's going to be the techno leaders who are literally going to control the world. Yes, for those who are aware of the future. So in 40 years, when I'm not here and my son is here, Spire, what advice do you have for the people who are actually controlling the world beyond the demigods we see? I'm not even worried about them because in 15 years they may not exist. What does the future look like from your lens 40 years from now in regards to what the actual reality is going to be like in the world we live in? Then to Dr. Winnie, for a woman, I'm asking as a woman, what role do we have to play? Because women, we have a way of negotiating. We're the best negotiators. How come we have failed to win this war? Because even in 2019, when Hillary Clinton was running, a man won the election. Where have we failed as women? Because we seem to fail to close this war. Because we can whisper in these men's ears and end this thing. How can we use our gift as negotiators? Please don't get me wrong, I'm not talking of sexuality or anything, but women have been gifted to be the best negotiators. How can we use our gift as women, as mothers, to change and change how the world thinks? Lastly, your book is a mirror. The book is a mirror. It's a form of redemption. Dr. Spire, hand on chest, as you are writing this book, what are some of the things you regret to have done that you could have done better, and things that we can avoid to do? Those are my questions.
All right, let's get back to the panel so that they can answer these questions, and then we will see if we have a chance to go back into the audience. So I think I'll start with you, Winnie, and then we'll move.
Well, thank you. These are very interesting questions. The question of fear kept coming up, that we live, the regime is striking fear in us. One question was, who is afraid? Is it the rulers or us, the citizens? My answer to that is that it's a dynamic. Yes, the rulers are afraid of us, and we are also afraid of their terror. So we are in that trap. They are afraid of us. And you don't need to look back far. You can remember, if you were young when we came to power, you were probably a child cheering us on from the bush. We didn't have these long convoys. We were just driving and the population was excited about us. We had legitimacy. Today, our leaders move in huge armed convoys with huge weapons. Why? They are afraid of us. They've lost legitimacy. So they are afraid. And they are afraid even to leave power, because they are afraid of the consequences of not holding military power. So they strike fear in us, and we are afraid of them because they will unleash violence indiscriminately. They do not care about lives anymore. So we're in a trap. We fear them, they fear us. I think this book is important because it helps us overcome our fear. Because we must overcome our fear to overwhelm them. So I like this book because it's challenging you young people. So the second point was, there's no bush. Some of you made jokes, climate change or what. Nobody's asking you, I am not asking you to do what we did. We did what we did because we analyzed those circumstances and found that that was the option we had. But today, you have so much that's there for you to use to resist injustice. Many of you have become social media resistors. You like to make comments on social media, but let me say to you, liking and unliking is not going to change much. No, you have to do more than that. You have to bring the digital activism. Digital gives you opportunity to be faceless and to hide behind but say what you want. Fine. But you must connect it to some real collective action that puts you face to face with your target. You can't just stay behind a click. So I challenge you, bring those actions together. Your social media activism with on the street, on the campus, everywhere, activism. You cannot make an omelette without breaking eggs. You need to have some scars from the struggle. My son is in this room. I'm happy. He doesn't want me to announce him, but Anselm Kizabesije is here. He's a student like yourselves. He has often said to me that he envies me and his father because we had a historical moment and we stood and fought for something. He says that. And then I say, you find your moment. He has been an activist on Palestinian rights since the age of 15. When this Gaza war began, he was involved planning a demonstration every weekend on rights of people in Gaza. I said, well, you found your cause. Fight there. Keep fighting there. You too must have your cause here. You must step out there and get bruised. Even the police can beat you up. That's your badge of honor. I have mine. I have mine. I was fighting here with corrupt leaders. I censured Muhwezi. I censured Kutesa. I have my, yeah. Don't think they didn't hurt me. I have my marks, and I'm proud of them. So you also take a risk. Don't think that Spire is not taking a risk by writing that book. Tomorrow you might find he's somewhere hidden, taken away. Yes, I don't want that to happen to him, but he's taken a risk. So take some risks. You are young. You can take some risks. And so then you say, what pushed me to be an activist? And you say, I'm inspiring. Thank you for saying that. I was pushed by anger. I was angry. I was here on this campus. If you want me to tell you some of it another time, I was a fresher here. I was having fun. I was in the engineering faculty. But things were not working right. And I faced some unjust situations, horrible situations that made me say, I cannot take this. I'm out of here. I'm going to look for a place where I can study as a free person. I left in anger, and I joined activism. And I've never stopped because I was angry. So be angry at injustice. That will push you to take action with others and to have a life of purpose. Beyond your degree, you'll have a purpose to change the world as well. Now, you say your leaders are against you, but that's the point. If they were with you, I would even be surprised. I mean, they are serving a regime that is against us. Are they not? They are forced to do things to make their bosses up there happy. The judges are reporting to the executive. The parliamentarians are even proud to say that I pass all the bills you ask me to. I mean, there you are. The bosses, your bosses are not for you. Resist. Say no. Say no. Push the boundaries. Don't want to lose your place in the university, but the struggle teaches you how to be strategic and tactical, how to push the envelope without tearing it up and falling out. Push the envelope. We are here to support you. Then the future, the long-term future, let me tell you, technology is changing us very fast. It's true. And the world will change very much. But, and even I can see us becoming more and more integrated, ceding more power at the national level to regional level. I can see that coming. I can see jobs changing. But there will always be work. And work is going to shift more and more to care work. You may find that if you're a lawyer, that a robot can do your work, I'm afraid. But if I am a child carer, no robot is going to rock a baby. I will still have my job. More work is going to move towards care services. Our world will begin to pay better those who do care. Today, they are the most underpaid. If you care for a baby, you earn less than if you are a construction worker just piling bricks on top of each other. Yes, that's more valued than raising a baby, teaching a child in a classroom, shaping their values. These are now not recognized and rewarded jobs. In future, they will be. And they will be harder to replace with technology. Governance will change. Governance will change as technology changes. So we need to be always conscious that technology is changing us, climate is changing us. I see more work in the area of adapting to climate change, doing agriculture differently, doing services that are new, that help us to manage in a changed environment. So stay ahead, read and stay ahead. You're going to see your profession changing. The job, what you're being trained to do will not be there even by the time 10 years after graduation. So stay ahead by reading and open to technological change and other changes. Women, lastly, we are women. I don't think that there is so much evidence about women being better negotiators, but there is evidence about women being more invested in relationships. Because we are nurtured from day one to care about relationships, to look after children, to look after elderly, to look after disabled in the home, to feed everybody. So we are into relationships. And companies that really want to succeed in a competitive world care about diversity, and that diversity includes gender diversity, because they understand the attributes women bring in the public space, in the private sector. So we have skills, not necessarily those of negotiating, but skills of multitasking, doing several things at the same time, of being patient and caring and nurturing. These are skills we bring. And a country that doesn't take advantage of them, a government, is a loser. Sadly for us, we understood diversity. But let me give you the history of our diversity here. We have affirmative action in politics that came from our armed struggle. It came at that time because women were needed in the revolution. They were needed for three things. One, food was scarce in the areas that were first controlled. They could go long distances and bring food without being obstructed by the enemy. So they fed us. Two, they could do reconnaissance. They could pretend to be carrying firewood or water and go around enemy encampments, get information, bring it back. So they were used as spies. Third, it soon became clear that in the communities, they were credible. They could be mobilizers for us, for the population to be friendly. So for those three reasons, women were put on committees. But I want you to know, when we now liberated the whole country, there was another reason for expanding affirmative action and having women in local government and parliament. That was the reason of transforming the politics of the country. At that time, there was DP, UPC, the old parties, and they were locked in their own conversation. To create new politics, we needed to bring outsiders into the political discussion. And women were the first big group of outsiders we could see who were going to change the politics. They were not in DP, they were not in UPC, those parties were dominated by men. So when we opened the door for women to come in, boy, did they come. They all became NRM because NRM gave them space. And we were able to reshape the politics of the country and break away from the parties with newcomers. Women, then we added workers, disabled, and all of that. But you need to understand that that was an instrumentalization of women. That was about women as newcomers finding new alliances. Sadly, when women came without deeply analyzing, many of them decided to join a bandwagon of eating. So now we see many women, the numbers are huge, but you can't relate them to social and economic progress for women in the country. You cannot see between us and a country with no women in parliaments in Africa much difference on maternal mortality, on anything. Why? Because they are not representing a women's agenda, but they are part of the captured system and they are on the table eating, they're on the gravy train. So we lost that opportunity of women in politics, making women truly transformational, bringing their special skills and changing the politics. We lost that. We want to fight to bring it back. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Maybe let me begin there, Winnie. And it might relate to what I called for generational conversations. The whole conversation around women, I pick on that to highlight maybe why even our generation, 65 plus, need to think what went wrong. Because yes, we have a vice president who is a woman, a speaker of parliament who is a woman, a prime minister who is a woman, and I could go on. And I think you've explained what happened. But I think we need to maybe ask, did we get the reflection, the analysis wrong? You made a point about the instrumentalization of women. Maybe that's where the thing went wrong. We saw women as tools, the instrumentalization. And I really wonder. So I really think there is hard work to think together in order not to repeat the mistakes that were done. Everything else that you have highlighted, I think does add so much value to us. Let me just, in a similar manner, simply say that the overall questions you ask us on the panel, especially Winnie and I, are possibly not questions you should hope for us to answer. You are the people to answer those questions. That's it. Just sit amongst yourselves. And I think that's one of the problems of the current system. It's a patronage system. Younger people are supposed to listen to this rubbish called elders. They are supposed to listen to pastors. You understand what I mean? Elders are not conversational partners as in the African traditional society. Please remember the fireplace. The fireplace was a place of conversation. A place of conversation. So, and it's the same thing. Let me go to pastors and bishops. My goodness, this unbelievable thing that has come upon us, in which young people are being told, in order to get success, you must pray. What's that rubbish? What is that? That the pastor asks you to put $10 in the, and then he assures you success. Meanwhile, the pastor is building mansions for himself and his family are going everywhere. Now, the anger question. One of the dangerous places that is killing anger are churches, religious spaces. Because they say anger is bad, anger is sinful. No, anger is essential. Let me give you an example. Those of you who are followers of Jesus or care about that story. When Jesus entered the temple and found people selling, and what did he do? Pray for them? Bless them? What did he do? Overturn the tables, whip them. What's this business? So I personally don't want to hear young people, saved young people, going to All Saints Cathedral or the cathedral, whichever, or Fanero, or please tell your pastors they are a problem. They are telling you things that don't work. So here is the key, and it relates to students where you are. I think it's a quote credited to Arthur Ashe, but I was actually introduced to this by a friend of mine in my activism. And this is the key, I find. Start where you are. Start where you are. I did not start activism by challenging the military or challenging parliament or challenging the ideas of President Museveni. No, I started as a student at Makerere in the Faculty of Education. Can I tell you the story? The dean of the Faculty of Education then was a born-again man, a Christian man. He was the dean. But students, they were not giving us our allowances for going for practice that were due to us. I am a born-again, saved, spirit-filled young man. The dean is born-again, spirit-filled. I led a demonstration to my saved friend. I told him, sir, we are coming because of this, this, and the other. He said, but you are my brother. I said, precisely, I am the right one to come to you. Start where you are. If you can't deal with the lecturer who is cheating marks, doing all sorts of things, please don't try Nawangwe. Don't. Don't. Just start where you are. If you are the same people stealing votes, you know, you are just, you won't do it. Start where you are. Let me talk to pastors. People say to me, but Bishop Zach, what did you do? I say, start where you are. I was a bishop in the church. You're not a bishop. You can only do what a bishop does. Do what you can do where you are. Start where you are. Number 2, use what you have. Don't say, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't. Of course, there's many things that you don't have. Use what you have. What do you have? You have a brain, for goodness sake. Use that brain. The tragedy today is our phones, we spend a whole lot of time scrolling. We are not reading. So, I want to encourage you. This is a great book, but it is useless if we don't read it together. May I encourage you? Use your brain, create book clubs. Is Nawangwe going to find you in your room when you're reading this book? I'm asking you. Will Professor Nawangwe find you there? No. So start reading clubs. And then within those reading clubs in your room, I can still remember some of the work that we did when we were organizing against Idi Amin. It was in Lumumba Hall. We started to organize against Idi Amin in Lumumba Hall. We used the figure of called Gongom, Gongom's command post. And Idi Amin and his commanders were clueless on who Gongom was. We had our own bush in Lumumba. When we say bush, we're not talking about the bushes my sister went to. No, you must have a bush. The idea is that you must engage in covert work. Are you hearing me? Because if you don't, and young people, you are the only ones who can do bold things. The reason why there is lacking in boldness is because there is lacking in depth of conviction. By the way, I am not a courageous man. I just have deep convictions. Deepen your convictions. If you believe nothing, everything will go for you. But how do you deepen convictions? You must read. You must create values for yourself. And then lastly, do what you can. Don't be here saying, but we can't do this, we can't do this. Of course you can't do it. You can't do it. Do what you can. There's lots of things, good people, you can do. Lots of things you can do. But how will you know what those things are? Winnie and I will not tell you. Dr. Spire and his team in their 40s can help you in your 30s. But actually, you in your 20s, as Viola says, you can imagine the future in which the guns on the street are going to be useless, completely useless. I see our president going around, security, guns, vici, and so those things, 10 years' time, totally useless. They won't work in terms of delivering effective security. Do I know? I don't know, truth be told. Who knows? It's you guys. So do what you can. You have lots that you can use. But if you focus your attention on what you don't have, on where you are not, I don't have power, I don't this. My last comment, therefore, is on fear. Can I tell you this? One of the ways in which I dealt with fear, and I deal with it every day, it's not yesterday, I have to deal with it every day, is to recognize that fear is actually irrational. So I publicly said, I will not fear President Museveni. Do you know why? Because President Museveni is a man like me. When President Museveni goes to the toilet, to susu, forgive me, President Museveni does not call an assistant to help him pull his thing out and put it out there. He does it himself. That's what I do. He's only a man himself. Do you understand? He breathes the air the way you breathe it. President Museveni does not have a creative way of breathing. I can go on. By the way, this thing hit me when I went, me, I'm very local, very local. I went to a toilet in the Diocese of Kampala. This thing hit me. When I went to the toilet in the Diocese of Kampala, we had only one general loo for everybody. The bishop went there, the cleaner went there, and so on. And people were clamoring, but bishop, we need a toilet for the bishop. I said, guys, why do you need a toilet for the bishop? The bishop does exactly the same thing. So I went to the toilet one day, and I found the cleaner doing his thing. You know how we men, we stand, okay? Ladies, you are all adults. We stand. He was standing. The man here got a shock. Hey, bishop. And I'm like, no. Calm down. I have also come to do my thing. Fear is irrational. I went to a friend of mine and I told him, they have told me they are going to kill me. And this is guys, the people in your company matter. Who are you hanging out with? Who are you hanging out with? So this guy looked at me and he laughed. I said, but you, how can you laugh when there is a clear plan for them to kill me? He said, Zach. He did not say Bishop. Zach. Let me tell you, one, they have done you a favor. At least they have warned you. Whoever knows what is going to kill him? Who knows? Now you know. You can deal with it. Number two, they are not telling you what will not happen to you. Are you going to die one day? Yes. So when somebody says, I'm going to kill you, hey, is that news? No. One of these days you are going to die. Me, I am very clear, one of these days I'm going to die. And it will certainly be sooner than I want it. Number three, my friend says to me, what they are scaring you about, they are going to kill you, you are going to die, is also going to happen to them exactly. Fear is irrational. How do you therefore deal with fear? Face the thing you fear most. Face the thing you fear most. This is practical. You fear your lecturer, go and confront him. You fear your vice chancellor, organize yourselves as a group, and go to the vice chancellor and say, sir, we want to speak with you. He will say, but what do you want? We want to speak with you. Just go, treat him as a human being. Remember, he has children, he has a family. Do you understand? Please remember, these people who oppress us, they have children, they have families, they go to the toilet, they get sick, and so on and so forth. So, remember, fear is irrational. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Coming at this point, the good thing is that many of the questions have been responded to and the comments that were made. But allow me to first make one acknowledgement before commenting on the questions. One of the reasons this book is here is because we still have some outlets that can allow us to release such things. We still have a few courageous people who can allow to publish such things. You still have a few people who, despite of all the risks they face, they can say, let me allow Spire speak, even when they know the cost that would come with that. Many of the articles here started in the Observer, being published in the Observer. Actually, I started writing, public writing, through the Observer and drawing cartoons. The managing editor of Observer is here, Mr. Pius Cartoons. Yes, Mr. Pius Katunzi and the Observer, I know it is really difficult in this country now to allow dissenting voices to speak through your media outlet. Very difficult. You will get URA invoices that they are demanding 200, 800 million from you, all sorts of things, be denied adverts. So it is such a courageous act for a media outlet to continue doing this. So that's why I wanted to start with that acknowledgement. Plus, of course, publishers like EHF who allowed to publish this book. Now, having said that, I think much of what we are discussing here goes back to one thing. I think the best thing to happen for the oppressor is for the oppressed to get used to oppression. I repeat that the best thing to happen for the oppressor is for the oppressed to get used to oppression. Many people in Uganda are used to oppression now. That instead of addressing the oppressor, they will silence those who are talking about the oppression. I get so many voices from colleagues, from family, but Spire, you have a family. Spire, you have a life to live. You have a comfortable job. Why don't you just leave that and go about doing your work? So the opportunism that we see is exactly what the oppressor wants. The opportunism where people only think about, what about my job? What about this and that? So people are just strategically positioning themselves in the oppressive system to see what they can benefit from it. We see that in the academia, we see that in the judiciary, in parliament, all over. But that is all part of this psyche that has been created, that we should get used to being oppressed and look for what we can benefit in the from the oppressive system. And not until we realize and accept, acknowledge the oppression happening, we are not going to rise. The question of what we can do, it all starts with the realization, with the acknowledgement that this and this is happening, but it is not fair, it is not just, and someone has to do something about it because everyone has someone concerned about them. Even those you want to speak for you, they have children, they have families. And then you hear someone saying, oh, well, for me, I'll worship my Jesus, and even Jesus had to die for you to be. Yes, Jesus took risks. But you're there, oh, my Savior died for me on the cross. You can't even risk posting one thing about oppression, but you're praising Jesus for dying for you on the cross. And what normally happens in oppressive systems, in oppressive environments, the oppressor will allow that kind of passiveness, that kind of apathy. They will allow this religiosity that it demobilizes, the religiosity that takes people away from focusing on where the problems come from to simply praying. I don't know whether you can point to any society that was saved by simply praying. So today you get people flocking churches. They are praying about problems that have been brought by the system, but they are unwilling to address the oppressive system. It is the article that Bishop Zach referred to here in the book, titled Sedating Uganda with Religion and Waraj. And I'll just read one short part from that article. As I noted earlier, the state may not find a problem with the sedative effects of the above kind of religiosity. As some sort of diversion, religion serves to reduce or to repulse the anger of the masses against the statist service and oppression. The solution to people's problems is in prayer, fasting, tithing, and repenting sins. Before Karl Marx, Napoleon had observed that religion is excellent stuff for keeping common people quiet. Religion is what keeps the poor from murdering the rich. The state knows this so well, so they encourage naive religiosity and make constant references to the scriptures where they serve their purposes. In this syndicate, exploitative preachers will not want to antagonize the state. They therefore strategically align with their co-exploiter to emphasize that leaders come from God and should be obeyed. And as Steve Biko decried under apartheid, such preachers are still top busy with moral trivialities. They blow these up as the most important things that Jesus had to speak to people. Thus, an irony is created of a well-meaning God who allows people to suffer continually under an obviously immoral system. If preachers perform this distraction from sins of theft in government, violence, and segregation, then the state cannot have any problem with their behavior. And that is exactly what is happening. That many of such preachers will not criticize the state, but they emphasize your private morality and your sins, and that you should repent. That way you're demobilized. You cannot focus on the oppressor. Instead, the problem is with you. You're not praying enough. Steve Biko says that he does not want to listen to the Bible, not until the Bible emphasizes that it is a sin to allow oneself to be oppressed. It is a sin to allow yourself to be oppressed. But where you simply allow to be oppressed and you go to pray and wait for the good God to come down and emancipate you, I think the reason why God gave us brains is because he knew they would be needed here. So for you to go back with the brain you are given to pray about things that you can solve and should solve, I think it is an insult to God. So I wanted to clarify on this because I don't really have an issue with religion in general terms. I don't have an issue with worship, but I have a problem where religiosity becomes a distraction, where religiosity takes away agency from people and they only look at their solution in prayer. And lastly, as we think about what we should do, which has been eloquently spoken to, I think part of the problem is that many of us don't want to take risks. Many of us want to do what is safe. So they tell you, yes, we want to do something, as someone said, but they are going to pick us. They are going to kill us. They are going to abduct us. In primary school, I remember we used to sing a song. I don't know whether it is still allowed, that freedom isn't free. You have to pay a price. You have to sacrifice for your liberty. But many of us want freedom that is free. Many people that we adore, that we worship, that we respect a lot, they had to sacrifice for what we are enjoying now. President Museveni had to sacrifice, even for the supporters of NRM. President Museveni had to sacrifice, and he was very intentional on what he wanted. Jesus had to sacrifice. You find someone with a picture of Mandela hanging in their room, but they don't want to take any risk. Mandela had to sacrifice. Martin Luther King had to sacrifice. The colleagues you see here on the table, Wina has told you about her experiences. Her husband is in jail as she's here. I don't know where Bishop Zach lives these days. But I know that he's not comfortably in the country. I see my colleague there, Agatha, who is one of the people, or Agora, which she leads, the team that is now speaking a lot about the injustices happening, the arrests. I know what she's going through. First of all, being slut-shamed, that you have 4 children with 4 different men, you're a harlot, and all that. These are things that pain, but you focus on what you want to achieve. What do we see in Uganda today? Someone is abducted in the middle of the street. People are there watching, and everyone is going about their business as if they are watching a movie. The person is picked by ununiformed people who don't even identify themselves. The person is taken and everyone is watching, and they are saying, "Ha, bamutute." Who do we expect to address it? The oppressed are the majority. I think actually the oppressors sit and laugh at us. In our millions, you can simply cry, they are abducting us. They can't allow us to speak. That is the irony of the idea of government. You get a few people, put them on top so that they can help you achieve or realize what you want to achieve collectively, They are supposed to serve you, and then you start begging them. You, the majority, you feel so powerless that you cannot do anything. If we have more people doing something, if it is not a one Agatha shouting, a one Bishop Zach, a one Winnie, Besije, Bobby Wine, but we have so many people, it becomes difficult even for the oppressor. But the moment you're few, you're easy to target. So by the silence of the majority, all of you who are here, you're risking the lives of those who are speaking out. I thought you would clap. And everyone can certainly do something within your means. You don't have to do what Spire is doing. You don't have to do what Pius is doing, what Samson is doing, what Yusuf is doing, but within your means. Someone asked me, how did you come, what inspired you to inspire? I simply started by doing what I wanted to do, what I thought I should do. Some people will send me their concerns to share them on social media, and they tell you, no, it's because for you have a platform, you have a following. Where did the following come from? Because I have been speaking since around 2005, and this thing is cumulative. But for you want to enjoy your safety and send me the risky things to share on my platforms. So do what you can do within your means and within your resources. Thank you.
Yes. All right.
May I just read this quote? Just for you to get the sense that President Museveni agrees with what we are saying. He penned this in 1985. It's a quote in articles on the Ugandan resistance, and I quote, I read, "Without democracy and the human dignity of the African people, Africa will never develop. The people are too frightened to comment on the actions of the omnipotent rulers that have got the powers of life and death over every citizen in their countries. Rulers can squander resources with impunity. They can violate human rights of people with impunity. Democracy, therefore, becomes a sine qua non of development. We ought to oppose dictatorship in Africa. We ought to oppose dictatorship in Uganda." I quote President Museveni.
All right. Thank you so much, Bishop Zach. And before I let this panel go, I have just one ask of officialdom that I want you to do, which is to come and officially launch this book. I am inclined to believe Dr. Spire will be outside there to sign your copy. So if you buy a copy, please wait for Dr. Spire on the outside. If you want to use him for other things, please don't. He's just signing books today. No one should take him away. So I want to invite our panel to cut our ribbon and officially launch our book, and we will be good to go. But please, a round of applause for the panelists. They've done. Okay, so Winnie will cut the ribbon and then sign, and then we'll have Zach and then Spire.
It's my honor and privilege to launch this important book, What Died When We Lived.
All right, and now I will ask Yusuf Serunkuma here, who is the editor, to come and say a few words and invite Dr. Msinje Kabumba, who will then let us out of here.
Thank you so much, Raymond. Thank you so much, Winnie. Thank you so much, our panelists. I think it's been an amazing lunch, and we are happy that you stayed here with us because we really overshot our time. Editor House Facility proudly put these essays together. Please visit our website, editorhousefacility.com. We have other titles. Some of them are actually outside here with us. And we are happy to receive manuscripts too. Dr. Kabumba, please come and say goodbye to our wonderful guests.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I can see many of us our patience has been tested very much, but we stayed because of the importance of this book. I'd just like to say one thing, which is that, and this goes perhaps to the point about careerism. These barazas have been consistently held for over 30 years without any incident. So I was very surprised when yesterday there was some kind of indication that certain kind of approval had to be held for 2 days. And I was invited to write a letter to obtain that approval. I did not. Simply because once you start writing those letters, so you're asking, so how will that letter go? Dear sir, this is to say that, can we kindly meet at the law auditorium, at the School of Law, to discuss? That's strange. It's really strange. But it also has implications because, remember last year, the Constitutional Court suggested that academic freedom stops at the university. That was the implication of the Foxodoi case. That's what they said, that academic freedom has limits at the university and is limited also to the area of expertise. So if we watch as our freedoms are curtailed and whittled away in legalese and other language, I fear that at some point, so that of course is problematic given the wide terms of Article 29, because suddenly the idea that when you get out of the gate, you can no longer speak is strange. But if we let that slide, and many of us pushed against that, and somehow it appeared to be a silo, it was not our problem. But it seems if we let that slide, even within the university, even that little space that was left will be increasingly challenged and perhaps finally closed. So again, just speaking for myself, if we cannot have such an event at the School of Law, at the Human Rights and Peace Center, I think it's meaningless to say one is the head of department or that one is even a lecturer of constitutional law of all things. So speaking just for myself, we shall have these events as long as we can have them, and if they cannot happen, then it simply doesn't make sense to teach law at Mackay University. Thank you. And with that said, I would like to thank you all once again. Professor Spire, congratulations. Thank you very much, Winnie. Thank you, Zach. Thank you very much, Raymond. Most grateful, all of you, for coming. Yusuf and EHF. Asante sana. Bye-bye.